Hey, this is Slava. I am live. Today I'm talking about the latest news of AI agents. I want to thank everyone for being here. Looks like we have people from YouTube and LinkedIn joining today. Today I want to show you some of my favorite websites that I use to keep track of the latest agentic news. Of course, there are many developments in the space. The reason you want to join my stream is because you want to know how you can not only, first of all, find the latest news, but second of all, actually understand what they mean. So today, I want to make sure that you are informed. I want to make sure you have everything you need. And if you have any questions at any time, feel free to click on the QR code, which you should see left of the screen, and you can actually schedule a call. So if I do this, the QR is gone, and now it's back. Of course, there are lots of developments this week. So for now, I'll just hide it. Make sure you can see my face to the max. And okay, let's do this. So today, I want to start by showing you one of my favorite workflows to find the latest news. Grok is one of the better models out there that allows you to do what's called deep research. Here is an example of what that looks like. Here is the prompt I used before the live stream started. Here is the setting that I'm using for this search. So I did deep search, but also there's a deeper search, and we can actually run that through. You can see Grok model, which of course is Grok 3 for those who have been living under the rock, is taking 3 minutes to respond and looking through 77 sources. Now, if I were to go through these sources myself, it would take me more than 3 minutes. It's the reason why I'm using this model. Here's a second model that I highly recommend in case you're curious to replicate these workflows yourself, and that's Perplexity. So in Perplexity, you can see that you have the same, if not similar, prompt, but now you see you have 46 sources coming back to you, and this is very convenient as well. Now, unfortunately, Perplexity, which is the model that I'm showing you here, is not showing me how long it takes. So I don't know how quickly or how slow it responded, but I do know it went through 46 sources. Again, Grok was 77 for comparison. And of course, there are many others, including OpenAI Operator, that also can control your screen and do research on your behalf. And of course, there is the deep research mode by OpenAI. So three major players in the large language space, they all provide deep search. And of course, this started from Google. So if you have kind of the hunch to go explore, go into the weeds of the tech, definitely check out Google because they started the trend of deep research with their Gemini release. Then you had, of course, others like Perplexity come in, catch up, OpenAI, Grok. These are just three of the providers that do this. So what I want to do for this live stream is really just focus on some of the things that I think are useful. I'll just quickly narrow the screen. Hopefully it'll make the experience a little bit better for you. I do see you're only able to see partial on your screen. That's fine. So roughly, what I want to do here is I just want some of the developments. Again, if I scroll through Grok, you can see it's clear, but it's convenient that you can actually see what I see. So if I highlight here, you can always notice what I'm reflecting on. And if you have any questions, definitely drop them in the comments below. In the meanwhile, what I want to do is I want to make sure that you can not only my screen, but also you can see the QR code as I decide to pop it back in. So there we go, QR code, show, there it is, guys. If you're curious to, at any time, to jump on a call with me, check out the QR code right above me. Then you'll be able to go and take that QR code, use your phone and scan it so you can have a call with me. I'll hide it for now. Coming back to our live stream. So here we have the ability to really cover the news. That's the whole point of this specific live stream. Grok 3 is giving 77 sources. Of course, this is too much. This is information overload, at its best, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go through each one. Interestingly here, Grok is actually using Brave, which I didn't expect. Why would they need to use Brave if they have their own real-time search engine? They have their own tooling to do this. I guess they're trying to save on their own search tool costs. Anyway, coming back to what the response is. So you can see that I asked for the latest news over the past week. This is something you can do across all industries that you're interested in. In my case, I have a meta prompt that helps me to learn more about agentic AI news, allowing you to see insights from that. But the most important part here is that I'm going meta level. So if you see what I see, I'm essentially asking an AI agent to evaluate other AI agents. And this is what I mean by the meta prompt. So if I look at the research, we basically see a couple of the major developments over the past week from 13th to the 20th. And they include research by LG. They include research by NVIDIA, Alphabet, and Google. So these are some of the latest developments. Of course, the three competitors here that I've mentioned, last three, they're focused on advancing agentic AI and physical AI, so also robotics. But in my case, I'm focused on AI holistically from a perspective of agents and agentic workflows. If I scroll down, you'll see all the latest, including what happened. So let's look at LG first, and we'll be able to quickly figure out what that announcement is. And at any time, if you have any questions about what you see, if you have any comments about what you're looking at, feel free to them in the links below. And I want to also thank Rael for being here, and definitely say hi if you're in the chat. Let's get into it. So LG releases what they call AXA 1 or EXA 1 Deep. This is a new model that aims to improve reasoning and evolve agentic AI. So essentially, this is what we've seen from other competitors like OpenAI, Grok, of course, DeepSeek. They all have really to thank OpenAI because when the reasoning models or deep thinking models, this is really what you're seeing here. You're seeing the reasoning capabilities and evolution of agentic AI, especially for math, science, and coding. In this case, the LG team released three different models: 2.4, 7.8, and 32 billion parameter model. These are just convenient. If you want to run a smaller model on a smaller device, you want to run a larger model, you can definitely do that depending on what you see fit for your use case. So embedded devices will run smaller models, and then larger model will be able to account for something that's more open source. In this case, actually, it's quite unique in that we see this is an open source model. I didn't have a chance to test this model yet, but I do expect if it's by a player like LG, they've definitely taken time to be competitive. It's hard to release them being competitive in this space because you already have giants who are walking around. They already have reasoning models. So as I mentioned, the previous ones, a lot of the reasoning models or deep thinking models are around. So NVIDIA, Alphabet, and Google, of course, the previous one I mentioned is a collaboration between the three. You have agentic AI and physical AI coming together. This is quite important. You have the NVIDIA Omniverse, which is the specific technology used here. You have different teams like Google, DeepMind coming together. Of course, DeepMind is now owned by Google thanks to latest acquisition. You also have lots of impact here through this collaboration. Of course, healthcare, they do need physical AI or robot manufacturing, energy. And these are just some of the industries that will see most benefit here. And then beyond that, what else we can see from this specific release? We can see that the specific model for XO1 is really good at mathematical logic, meaning mathematics, scientific concepts. This is important. This is kind of the equivalent of O1, perhaps. Then we have complex programming, of course, any reasoning model that requires math, science, physics going to do well for these releases. And it looks like there are benchmarks. I haven't seen them yet, but I do expect that they're going to be competitive. And there is a claim here that it's actually competitive against Korea. I'm not sure in this context what they mean here. But if I do look at the GitHub repo, I see that they actually have a release posted 2 days ago and released 3 days ago. So there's that model. Looks like we do have some performance benchmarks. So if I just jump there, if I can share in the tab for a second, and then I'll quickly jump into the screen share once again, and I'll be able to share the other tabs that I have open on my screen. Let's do this. Full screen, share, window, perfect. All right, let's get back into it. So we do have some of the other developments, including benchmarks. Okay, hopefully this is working. Here we go. We've got benchmarks for the XO1 Deep 32 billion, which is the largest one on red. So you can see he's doing very well on math, quite well on coding, although there are better models, including open source QWQ. And then we also have DeepSeek outperforming actually. But I think they're trying to be competitive. So in this case, it's a 32 billion parameter model. DeepSeek is 671 billion in comparison. So it's actually quite a big difference here. So if I close this out, you'll see that actually competitively, they're doing quite nice. And there's some of the other benchmarks here. So we've got more benchmarks on the bottom, and they're comparing the 7 billion parameters and the smaller model. So from a larger model, this is the one that should be the most performant. We see very good performance on math, actually better than DeepSeek. That's surprising. So this model is better than DeepSeek. And DeepSeek is quite affordable. So I'm curious about the pricing here. And then beyond that, coding, not as good, but it's fine. We've got math competition doing quite nice. So I would say at this moment, it looks like a really good model for math problems, science problems. I would not use it for coding yet, but perhaps the next release, maybe if we see a 72 billion parameter model, that should be a better announcement by the LG team. So I'm going to start, give him some love, give him some support. In the meanwhile, I'm going to jump back into Grok just to make sure I go through the rest here. You guys can see that hopefully on your screen. So in this case, we do have OpenAI launching automated systems. It looks like for their release, let me just make sure. Oh, it looks like just a coverage for Tech Crunch, not much there. Microsoft releasing, looks like they're trying to narrow down their use case for Copilot and Dynamics 365. Great approach there because everyone's already using either one of those two if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem. Anthropic releasing more tools, and I'll show you what that looks like. Fortunately, these at TechCrunch, I wouldn't call these reliable. So Grok, you got to step up your game here. I assume these results are coming in because of Brave, as I mentioned. So if you can, please don't push Brave. Or at least fall back to it in case you fail to search your own data set, in this case, Twitter. Looking at the other details here, you've got X doing very well, of course, because it's picking up these news. And then we do have some announcements here. So there we go. Supporting details on social media. That's funny how Grok is not promoting itself. Actually, it's promoting what I would consider to be a free alternative to Google. But it makes sense. Like Grok is not really friendly with Google, with other players, so they don't have the incentives to partner with them. But Brave doesn't have the same incentive structure, so it makes sense for them to fall back on something like Brave. Anyway, I do see some announcements here. So X announcement for LG is here, and we've got another post by Sundar. Of course, that's Google, mentioning that Google partnership with NVIDIA, and in this case, they're getting quite significant attention. It makes sense. They're both giants in the space. Beyond that, I'm actually quite under impressed because this release by Grok, even though it was meant to do a deep or another even deeper search, it's actually not not deep. It's, I would say, shallow search at best at this time. But nonetheless, I wanted to show you this workflow because it's quite useful. So here I go copy, paste that into Perplexity, and let's see what we get. So 46 results is coming back. Again, I don't know how long that took, but I can assume that that process was less than 3 minutes because it has less sources than Grok. And here we do have some announcements here. So OpenAI Agent Building Toolkit. This is an incredible release. If you haven't heard this before, I've already covered it. This is something that OpenAI has done in anticipation for evolution of large language models. They've released what they call Agent SDK. This is the toolkit they've launched, but this is back 11th. So hey, Perplexity, like I said in the past week, and you guys are giving me more than a week ago. So you guys need to step up your tool use for date and time because that's not really what I wanted. But hey, at least I can mention that if you want to learn more about this release, definitely check out my video. I've already talked about OpenAI as latest release for Agents SDK. This is something that is available to anyone who wants to either use chat completions endpoints or somebody who has tested the Swarm SDK. In case you've been living under the rock, Swarm SDK was OpenAI's kind of attempt at creating something that was research focused, that was allowing the creation of multi-agent systems. That didn't work, unfortunately. If I do a Swarm SDK GitHub for OpenAI, I'll show you what that looks like. Here is the project. I did want to spotlight this because they did try. That was 5 months ago. I would say you do see experiment on their team to say this is production ready, and yet I'm sure people have gone through and took Swarm into. But I digress. So coming back to the launch here. This is a new announcement by OpenAI, as I mentioned already. Not that new, but definitely worth paying attention to. They released the Responses API, which combines chat completions API with tool use. Very important because a lot of language models are stuck on this level here. And that's something that you just can't move past. If you want to use agents, you need to use tools and specifically function calling to do that. So you can't do it without using tools. In this case, they just have a nice wrapper, which they call Responses API. And of course, that's synonymous to the new SDK for agents specifically, not for GPT models, but for agents. And again, nothing more than language model wrapped with some tool use. The other piece that's important here that you don't see, and of course, I'm not prompting the model to respond that way, but this is happening behind the scenes. These models are nothing more than loops, or think of it like a graph that has a specific state. It has nodes and edges, and it's just going through a loop to make sure it executes based on the response of the tool and based on what happens. So if best case scenario, the agent calls a tool, the tool returns a response. It can evaluate itself through essentially a graph, and it can ask itself, did the tool respond, answer the user's query? If it did, come back and pass it on. If it didn't, perhaps loop again or do a handoff. And there's a quite convenient feature by the OpenAI team about handoff. Coming back into the announcements, I do see a couple of the other elements here that are important. So major platforms, including Google, announced Agent Space. Now, I haven't seen this already, but I definitely want to learn more. Unfortunately, it looks like Perplexity is not really helpful if I want to learn more about that. It's funny, it's giving me the hyperlink to the operator, but it's now giving me a hyperlink to Agent Space. So again, guys, if you're watching this, if you're on the Perplexity team or the Grok team, like this is something that is your bread and butter, and you can definitely step it up. And it can be as simple as put a hyperlink within the inline of the text itself, and if not, give a user the option to have multiple links instead of one. Coming back to the agent force, announcement. This is Salesforce actually. So Salesforce is something that is slightly different than Google, of course. Salesforce primarily has focused on the sales, which is implied in their name, but they do have an expansion for what they call digital labor platform. That's funny. Hey guys, this is the first time we're seeing digital labor coming in. So we've had digital employees, we've had digital workforces, but this is a digital labor. So it's very different. It's not what you expect from Salesforce, but hey, they're going down this path because they see value and there's clear value there. Business Wire, again, these sources, guys, is not very prime. I would not look at Business Wire and I would not trust what they have to say just because it's been written by them. I would rather trust something like X, being that people's comments go a lot more in, they bring a lot more in weight. And beyond that, if we have another source, like for example, Salesforce reporting on this announcement, I'd rather see a Salesforce source than Business Wire. But beyond that, like you can learn more, if you do your own search. In this case, we do have some interesting stats here. So I do see that Deloitte, that's a French name for those who are curious, they are seeing adoption. So this is actually quite impressive. They're noticing that more and more companies are adopting agents, especially enterprises, and they're projecting an increase of up to 25%. Okay, so 25% just means that out of every fourth company, so one in four, are adopting these solutions. So in this case, I don't think they distinguish between agents or workflows, but you can imagine that it's essentially both. You have agents, being that it's a large language model that has tool use, or workflow, something that is predefined. So an agent perhaps can direct its own decision making execution, but a workflow will not, meaning it's been defined by the developer. So again, no distinction here, but quite impressive to see that. And that's this year, people. That's this year, 25% increase. Um, this year is very impressive compared to what it was last year. 50% will happen by 2 years. So, hey, if you're watching this, this is the perfect time to act because what this shows you is that Deloitte, which of course is a consultancy, a research firm, they're predicting doubling within 2 years. Doubling. Like, how often do you hear a doubling of a space within 2 year period? That's not often. And so this is something that, again, is coming in from research. It's coming in from diverse backgrounds and applied across multiple sectors. I'm quoting this perplexity model, but you can definitely do your research. If you click on this, you'll be able to learn that specific stat and what that looks like in more detail. Okay, so I'll jump through a few more of these, but I really want to get on to Hacker News because so far, these news, whether it's through Grok or Perplexity, they're okay. I mean, they're good as a starting point, but I want to focus on some of the more developer focused announcements because those are really where the technical breakthroughs happen. Here, we do see some holistic news, holistic announcement, holistic research, but we need to get into the weeds to see how well, whether you're a developer or a brand, how well you can apply them. So Salesforce mentioning that 87% of United States respondents would use an agent to navigate government processes. This is not surprising. Who wants to navigate government websites? Like, raise your hand if you actually enjoy going to a government website out of any country, right? So whether it's United States, Canada, UK, Australia, or even any other country of the world, like government websites were never designed for excellent customer service. They were designed for legal verbiage. They were designed to make sure they're covering their compliance through enforcement, but not through customer service, not to answer people's questions. So, this is not surprising. Almost unanimously, 9 out of 10 people would rather use an AI agent or software to navigate or search, answer questions, navigate a government process or a website. So, quite high number, but not surprised. Google announced their latest experimental feature called Ask For Me, which empowers search engines with an agent that can call businesses on their behalf to make inquiries about services and availability. Really cool feature. So if you haven't seen this already, definitely check it out. Healthcare is another emerging sector. That makes sense. Healthcare is very impactful for those who use it. So anyone who is doing agentic solution for healthcare will benefit. Amazon identified lots of clinical agents that can process vast amounts of medical data, analyze doctors' notes, and decode genomic data. So again, everything that we've seen already from AI, just agents are now coming in and they're giving a better spotlight, a better solution also to the space. Last piece that I want to show you for the industry applications and adoption rates, you've got market intelligence for Asia Pacific reporting that their projection is that Asia Pacific will spend 32 billion, 32 billion dollars on AI driven programmatic shopping by 2028. That's 3 years from now, signaling a very high commercial application adoption. So, what does this mean? So, AI driven programmatic shopping means agents will do shopping on your behalf. Agents will do shopping on your behalf. This is significant because you can simply define your criteria. You can give an agent your credit cards. I know, I get it. You can definitely do that, and you can still be safe in that process. If you define a budget, if you define your criteria for search, if you define your criteria for shopping, you can delegate shopping experience for you. So I'm not describing traditional shopping, of course. I'm not describing simply shopping or e-commerce. I'm describing agentic e-commerce where agents are controlling your accounts, whether it's just navigating Amazon or controlling your Google browser and then using your credit card to shop on your behalf. So very, very cool announcement by IDC in the research, predicting we're going to see more of that in 3 years. We've got lots of challenges here, so lots of advancements. Salesforce coming out saying that executives, including chief information officers, will have fully implemented AI technology. Oh, sorry, my bad. This is a report that came out already looking at the state as of last year. 11% have fully implemented AI technology. That number is too high, in my opinion. Like you're not going to see 11% adoption for a company. I'm curious to see what numbers look like for that and what segments they're going after. Maybe a subset of companies, but that number is way too high. So we're definitely early stages. Lots of companies who want to use AI and still want to use AI, but they haven't got the time, nor the expertise to make it work. So definitely look into that if you haven't already. Look into both AI tech as a solution for you and specifically AI agents. And if you have any questions about what I said, if you have any ideas about what you want to do with the space, definitely scan the QR code and you'll be able to connect with me through a discovery call. This is a free call I offer to anyone who is on the space. If you're watching this video, if you're live with me right now, if you hit that QR code, you'll be able to connect with me. And then, of course, I schedule a call that works for the two of us. So if you are at the current state, whether you're a developer or you're a company, and you want to get to the next level, definitely scan the QR code and connect with me on one-on-one. Okay, so coming back into some of the announcements. So again, we've got lots of developments. In these developments are focused on implementation, adoption, and in this case, we do have quite a bit of content here generated. Again, I would say in both cases, Grok and Perplexity, the results are okay. There's definitely room for improvement. Both AI agents gave me news about AI agents, which is what I wanted. However, the announcements that were made, or rather the responses that I received, let's be more clear, are not as good as I've hoped for. I've already mentioned how both Grok and Perplexity can do a better job at that, but both solutions just highlight the complexity of the problem that deep research is aiming to solve. It's not an easy problem. It is possible to solve, but this is something that takes quite a bit of effort for those who are on the adoption side. That's Perplexity and Grok, but also those who want to introduce these technologies in their company. So if you are a developer or brand and you want to use AI agents yourself to do deep research, definitely reach out to me and I'll help you to implement best practices, whether it comes down to developing directly acyclic graphs or developing just for that matter graphs in general that allow you to execute upon very complex queries for search, do very complex planning, and most importantly, allow agents to do all that research for you so that you can go and do what you want to do. In my case, I'm covering the news, but of course, in your case, it can be market research, product research, it can be developer research, sales research, marketing research, etc. Now, I want to take my time to spotlight a few of the announcements by Hacker News. This is something that is, at least from my perspective, really significant in that each one of these types of posts on Hacker News has been pre-filtered. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Reddit in that there is some social signal here that gets rid of the kind of the weaker articles. And at the moment, as you saw with Grok and Perplexity, we just don't have a good filtering system. We do have the ability to research, absolutely, but not filter. So perhaps next time I do a live stream, I can modify these types of prompts here. If I hit edit, I can make that change for both the platforms. And perhaps I simply ask the question, then show me the most impactful announcements. So perhaps this will be a better way to modify the prompt. So in this case, I can hit edit on both Grok and for Perplexity, and I can see the latest news. I want to run through a few of these examples on Hacker News, and of course, this is just a glimpse of what came out in the past week. In this case, most of the announcements that I want to show you came out in the past day or so. So do keep in mind, Hacker News is not the best for showing you the latest news on a specific topic for a specific period of time. Well, I can do a search here, and I can search for AI agent, for example. We do see that I can at best search by date. I can at best search by a week, and that's about it. So in this case, my time actually, my ability to do a search by time is limited. And you can see it's all the results are coming back, including the comments. So even though I can search for stories, I do see comments as well in my releases. So not the most convenient of experiences, but it's definitely possible to search. So if I come back and I just do a general Hacker News refresh here, I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then I'll be able to show you what some of my favorite announcements are. So the first one is actually Claude, and it's now able to do a search online. So this is similar to what you saw from Perplexity and Grok. Claude is a model that is very good for coding. I use it on a daily basis, almost exclusively for that reason. But I do see that we do have ability to perform search now within the Claude itself. So you can see if this case somebody's asking to develop a web app and they need some assistance on updating TypeScript, and if you hit enter, usually the language model cutoff stops you from seeing what you expect. But in this case, the model comes back and actually does a search, and each one of these is a link. So you saw Stack Overflow, GitHub. These are links you can click on. So in a similar way to how we saw Grok and Perplexity, finally, Claude is doing the same. This is now available in feature preview in all paid Claude users in the United States. So I really appreciate anyone who is joining the space and taking time with me to learn the latest news. This is one of the announcements that I'm personally excited in because it gives me the hope that anyone can use what Perplexity has done, because the tools are now becoming more available to the rest. So in this case, web search is available as a feature preview for, and for me, I can let's try this. I have it already, but I'm gonna take this new prompt and I'm just gonna open up Claude, and I want to see how well it responds. So I'm not in the United States by my IP, but I want to see if my response uses the web search tool to see if I can come back and actually get what I want. So while it's loading, I'm just gonna run through the rest here. So we do see some of the popular ways people are using Claude as a suggestion: sales team, fin, tech teams, researchers, shoppers. Of course, they all can benefit. So there we go. So if I come back into Claude and I hit paste, let's see what we can do here. So the same functionality as before, nothing changed here. Search. Let's see what happens. This ideally should come back and use the search functionality. And if it doesn't, I'll tell you that right away. And if it doesn't, of course, there we go. So this is a good example. So here, because I'm not in the United States by IP at this time, here it is. There's a cutoff at this point. It's cutting off for October 2024, and March is the current date, of course. So we are not able to do that type of search. But if that search were to be made, we would not see this response, and we would actually see a response that is implying that it's performing the search. So I'm going to show you maybe one or two more announcements, and then that should give you a better sense of what's happening. Here is another announcement by Hacker News. This is a model here, collection of audio models by OpenAI called OpenAI.fm. And these are actually really cool because every time you press refresh, you actually see a different voice being selected, a different vibe. In that, of course, you also can control the script that you're passing in and the effects, including voice, tone, pacing, emotion, pronunciation, and any pauses you have. So this is very, very good prompting. Prompt engineering here is one of the best I've seen. And it's essentially showing you that you can take a model like OpenAI, which is text to speech. You can select the voice, select the vibe, select the effects of what that sounds like, and define your prompt. As soon as you hit generate here, you're going to see basically that specific model being used. Very cool implementation here, and demo just shows you that, or download rather, you can then get this model out. If you click start building here, it takes you to the entire link, and it looks like that's even better. So here we just have a copy and paste Python, JavaScript, and curl of what it takes for you to even use this. So if I hit copy on this, if I copy that, paste it into any IDE, and I can actually run it, and this will work. So in this case, the model is text to speech, as I mentioned. In this case, it's actually GPT-4o Mini. The voice that was selected for this example was Fable, which is this one. We've got a vibe for the coding language model. And of course, you've got lots of different parameters here that are being dictated by Python. So very cool. If you're not using Python as an API endpoint or JavaScript, you can just use curl, copy and paste this, put it into your terminal, and you can get something similar. I think for now, I will stop my live stream. I want to thank everyone who's joined me so far. I will do more live stream like this, covering the latest news of the agentic space. If you are interested to learn more about agents, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to hit the bell icon and get notified of when I go live next. If you you want to learn more about agents um, with one-on-one my live stream, I just put up a QR code above me for the discovery call. If you want to jump on a call with me, feel free to do so. I can walk you through the process of setting up agents yourself. I can help you to implement them as well if that's of value to you. In the meanwhile, I will end the stream here. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll be able to respond shortly. Beyond that, I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for your time. Bye.